I am beating every N64 game, and I mean all of them. The twist is, the next game I play is randomly selected, so I have no clue what's coming next. This is the journey to beating every N64 game. Game number 80, Command & Conquer. Released in 1999, this game was developed by Westwood Studios and published by Nintendo. Now here's an interesting one. This is the first real-time strategy game we've drawn for the N64 challenge, and it's from a very popular series. I'm sure there's a lot of RTSs out there, but the only ones I'm familiar with are Command & Conquer and StarCraft. Both happen to have games on this console. Many of my viewers were shocked to learn this game even exists for the N64. An RTS requires a very high rate of inputs from the player to succeed at, and to cover a huge range of the screen quickly. But hey, they made shooters work really well on console, so why not this, right? Let's see how they did. There is a single player campaign mode in this, so that's what we'll do to beat this game. The first thing to do is choose which faction you will play as. You can either be GDI or NOD. I opted for the NOD, but I ended up doing both campaigns in this playthrough. There are voice scenes between every mission giving you an update on the lore. In the NOD campaign, we're usually greeted by Seth giving us the rundown. In the PC version, there are full videos recorded of them, but in the N64 version, it's just an image still with heavily compressed voice audio.
This is Nakuma, and he is causing the Brotherhood much grief. His views do not coincide with ours, and that makes him dangerous.
Anyway, for this first mission, Seth introduces himself as Kane's right-hand man, whoever that is. He wants us to stop this guy named Yakuma from doing bad things. So, like I said before, this is an RTS. The controls are clearly designed with a mouse and keyboard in mind, but the N64 controller does a decent job. You can select a unit by scrolling over it and pressing A. If you want to select a group of units, you hold A to draw a box around the ones you want to use. It can be really hard to select between multiple units rapidly, so you can assign them to up to 4 groups using the C buttons. This first mission is incredibly easy. If you just group everyone together and run ahead, you'll easily kill all the GDI forces. Being the NOD, we're definitely the bad guys, as we just annihilate this civilian village. With extreme ease, I destroyed the entire village, completing the first mission. When you beat a mission, it shows this intense cutscene with one of the NOD tanks blasting its way through a GDI marked wall. It's not a unique scene, it shows that every time. Then it shows a map with all the territories in Africa, and that's where the entire battle is taking place, I guess. Sometimes you can pick between multiple missions to do. Depending on what you choose, you'll have a different mission for that part. The choice you make is like a permanent thing. You don't get to play the ones you didn't pick later or anything like that. For this mission, I chose Egypt. Seth says GDI forces have held a stronghold here for far too long, and the NOD needs to liberate these people from oppression. Yeah, like we liberated that last village, huh? He also mentioned something about there being plenty of Tiberium for us to harvest. Tiberium is the main resource people are after in this universe, and it acts as a currency to use during battles. This next mission is quite different. You start with a small amount of troops and a large vehicle as well. This thing is a mobile construction yard, and when you set it up, you gain access to building all kinds of different things. The first thing to build is a power plant, because without power, you can't really have anything else. Don't ask how the construction yard works without power. After that, I gained access to the Hand of Nod. I'm not really sure the lore here, but you can spawn in new troops to use in battle. I don't know if this is just a barracks and they're already in there, or they're like being created inside of it somehow. With the power of my newly found troops, I went on the attack. Reaching the GDI base, I found they had a lot of the same buildings I had. I went after the construction yard first because if they can't build anything new, it should be a lot easier to stop them. It actually takes quite a while to destroy enemy buildings, and they're going to send a lot of bad guys to try to stop you. This mission's still not that hard, but you have to have some semblance of strategy to win. I was going so nuts trying to take down their base that I didn't realize they were hitting my base as well. So much stuff to keep track of, and this is only the second mission, man. If your buildings get damaged, you can repair them as long as you have sufficient Tiberium. However, the process is quite slow. After fending off this attack, I'd spent all my money on troops and that was it. So I took everyone I had and went for the all-out attack. I ran into a strange-looking vehicle with pincers on the front that turned out to be an enemy Tiberium harvester. This is how they make money. If you attack this thing, the AI will send everything it has to try to stop you. It makes sense because without money coming in, there's literally no way you can recover. Even if your construction yard is destroyed, you can save up to replace it. But without money, you're done for. With this final assault, I took down the GDI base, beating the second mission. For the next mission, we have to infiltrate a GDI base and take over a prison inside. This one can actually be quite challenging. You really have no hope of killing all the enemy troops with what you have available, as there are just far too many. Along with that, this mission introduced me to the first instance of something being a counter to me. In one of their bases, they had set up a guard tower. This thing just obliterates infantry of any kind. Bazooka troops have a better chance, but it's still bad. You really need vehicles to fight these. And there's all kinds of matchups like this with all the different troops and vehicles in the game you'll have to learn. Despite this, I was able to make my way to the prison by pure brute force. I blew it up waiting for my praise from Kane, but instead I was greeted with a big old mission failed message. It turns out I actually had to capture the prison with an engineer, not destroy it. Whoops, my bad. Probably should have listened better when Zach was giving me that whole spiel about it. So I took down all the bad guys again and brought my crew along with an engineer to the prison. Little did I know there was still one ace up their sleeve. The Tiberium harvester was still around despite not having a place to bring its Tiberium to. So instead, it just ran itself at all my guys. And yeah, I didn't realize it could just run people over. It literally destroyed my entire squad. Now there is a way to stop this, but I had no idea it was a thing at this point in the playthrough. You can tell your troops to scatter, which stops this completely. At best, only one of your guys will be ran over if you do this, but if you do it well, it won't hit anyone. Once I recovered from that disaster, I brought an engineer to the prison, capturing it and beating the mission. For the next mission, they couldn't even be bothered to have Zach get on a call to tell us what to do. Instead, it's some automated voice. Apparently there's a civil war ongoing in Chad, and we want to make things even worse. This one is completely free. I just put all my troops into a single group and easily killed everyone first try. Now we have to take an excursion into Mauritania. This is especially important because Zach has informed the leader of all the Nod, Kane, about our achievements so far. He's going to be keeping a close eye on this upcoming mission. Here's where the game starts to ramp up in difficulty in my opinion. I went out to blow GDI dudes up as usual, but this time it was different. As I was leading the Nod onslaught, a GDI plane flew over and issued an airstrike on all my troops. They were decimated and there was really no counterplay to it. None of my troops would attack it. You are able to hit it with rocket launcher troops, but it's kind of unreliable unless you have a bunch of them. You can also build the airstrip for the first time in this mission. This allows you to bring in new vehicles for use, including tanks. I'd say this is the first mission where it plays like a true RTS battle. You have a majority of the tools available and the opponent will attack in many ways from many different directions. Before I knew it, there were multiple GDI troops attacking my base, and I didn't have a single troop left standing. We were completely overrun, and I had to start over. Still, it wasn't super tough though. I just had to farm a lot of Tiberium and build up a huge attacking force. I brought them into the enemy base and it was just enough to take it down. Still not too much strategy here, but it was good enough to beat this one. After that, Zach says how Kane is asking for our services specifically. He seems kind of bothered by it though, honestly. The GDI have a nuclear detonator being transported, so he wants us to sneak into the GDI base with a small force and capture it. Then says if we're lucky, there might be an evacuation helicopter waiting for us. I took this mission like any other, just grouped everyone up and went out to blow stuff up. There was an interesting spot on a hill behind their base I found where I could blow up a lot of the buildings without anyone being able to reach me. Or so I thought. After a while, a ton of tanks showed up and yeah, that was the end of that. That strat did not work. I tried a traditional strat of just taking the base on head on by keeping my tanks in front to absorb most of the damage. This had a pretty good distraction to allow one of the bikes to sneak past and steal the detonator. Kinda cool, the first mission that required some real planning. So now Seth seems shocked that we managed to win on that last mission. Almost like he thought we would die. Now Kane wants us to go on a propaganda mission. Our job is to steal a GDI Orca helicopter and bomb a civilian village with it. Easy enough, right? I sent some scouts out to see what we were working with, and yeah, it was kinda rough. They had a very heavily fortified base, and the Orca helipad was in the very back. This was a mission that had no funds, so only the troops we were given to start with were available. It was made even harder by having them split into two sections separated by a river. Along with that, at the top of the map is the only safe area, but they have a boat patrolling the water up there, which was something I'd never seen before. And yet, even more, I now had these flamethrower troops who are insane at taking down enemy infantry to be fair. The issue is they're also very good at taking down my infantry. It's nearly impossible to position these guys in such a way that they don't just kill the rest of my team. My first idea was to go after their construction yard and command center from the cliff nearby. This worked decently, but it brought tons of their troops around the cliff to stop me, and it just kept leading to me slowly losing any chance I had. After quite a bit of trial and error, I finally got a plan that worked. I would bring all the troops from the left side to the front of their base and sacrifice them to pull the enemy troops away from the helipad. Then I would lead with the tank on the right side with the engineers falling closely behind, hopefully not die before reaching the helipad. After quite a few attempts, I finally got it, but that wasn't the end. Sure, I had control of the Orca now, but what the heck was I supposed to do with it? Seth said I was supposed to destroy an enemy village, but where was it? I was just blindly landing in places that were blacked out, hoping they were the village. A lot of the times, getting slowly damaged in the process. Finally, I found it in the very far corner of the map. I realized this boat is up there to damage the Orca, which it did of course. And there was a bazooka troop in the village, which hits the Orca pretty hard. Man, I thought it would be free once I got the Orca, but I couldn't have been more wrong. It was just the beginning. The Orca got blown up rather quickly, and that was it. Had to go from the very start all over again. It took so long for me to beat this mission, dude. Like, I thought it was just so hard. I mean, at least for me it was. I did learn something during this one that saved me for the rest of the game though. You can save a mission in progress as it's ongoing, which can heavily be used to your advantage. If you make a good move, you can save, keeping that state. Then if you screw up later, just reload that state. Might seem like cheating to some, but hey, it's an in-game feature. Finally, after like 3 hours on this one, I destroyed the village, getting out of that nightmare. Before the next mission, it gives a brief aside at how many people are becoming sick after Tiberium exposure. The true effects of human exposure to it are unknown, but you best believe we're not going to stop harvesting it. That stuff makes all kinds of money. Seth comes back and says he's got a top secret mission that's so secret not even Kane knows about it. He wants us to issue an all-out attack on the US Pentagon. But then his transmission cuts and we see Kane holding a pistol. I guess that's the end of Seth. Kane says while he's retrieving his troops from the US, he wants what little troops we have remaining to take over an abandoned GDI base for our use. This is another one of those no-build missions, and you've only got a few troops to work with. It's really tough with so few troops, especially with there being a tank to take down. Getting far enough right reveals a heavily damaged Nod base that you can sort of utilize, but since you have no money, it's pretty worthless. After killing all the GDI troops in the area, a transport helicopter will appear. This can take up to 5 infantry anywhere on the map. It's actually really annoying using these things because it takes forever for all the troops to enter it one by one. Using this helicopter, you can reach the GDI base mentioned in the briefing and capture the construction yard with an engineer. This allows you to build. I had a better plan though. Oh yeah, my hair is purple from here on out because there was an incentive during a charity stream I ran to dye my hair purple. Anyway, my plan was to steal their refinery instead of the construction yard. If I timed it correctly, I could steal it just as their Tiberium harvester returned and reap all the benefits from it. If I keep the hand of Nod from the earlier base, I can use that to create more engineers to capture the rest. Along with that, the stolen harvester could be used to run over the enemy troops, saving my troops to defend the base better. This was the perfect setup to getting a good base for this mission. From here, it was just a standard harvest Tiberium to gain money to build up a big enough attacking force to take down the enemy base. Brief break to mention the graphics and sounds of the game. If you have the expansion pack in your N64, you can turn on a high res mode, which improves the resolution of pretty much everything by quite a bit. This does come with the caveat that certain things will be very laggy, especially bombing runs from aircraft. The game has pretty solid music it plays during all the missions. It's a bit compressed, but I think it still sounds quite good as an N64 title. Anyway, after harvesting a bunch, I had a big enough force to go on the offensive. I was destroying everything in sight. After the last of the GDI forces were eliminated, the mission was beaten. Next up, it turns out we're losing our foothold in Egypt due to Zach's little scheme he tried to pull. We need to bring our fortifications back up to speed. Kane also mentioned he's developed a new weapon for us to use, the Flame Tank. This next mission is way different than the others. You spawn with exactly one troop, and it's just a single guy running around. However, this guy has more to him than meets the eye. He's a commando and he's insanely strong. He runs around with a sniper rifle that one-shots any troop from further away than they can hit him. I thought this one was really fun. It's a lot like micro movements, trying to stay out of troops' range when a group of them run at you. Another thing he can do is lay explosives on any building. This will blow up anything instantly, but it can be dangerous to do. The commando meets up with some engineers and escorts them to a tiny GDI base to take it over. From here I had everything I needed to start the old farm up resources and build up my force. It's a bit different this time though, because the GDIs gained access to flyby airstrikes. These planes can't be shot down, and they'll keep coming every so often until you destroy their communication center. After like forever of building up troops, I went on the attack and blew everything up. Kane goes on this spiel about how he discovered Tiberium himself in Italy and named it after some dude named Tiberius. There's still lots of debate on whether the negative health effects of Tiberium make it worth it to harvest. But, money? Then Kane tells us there's a top secret GDI bio-research facility where I guess they're doing stuff with Tiberium. Our job is to destroy it. This one gives you a grab bag of basically every type of troop. There's even a commando you can use. It requires so much strategy in using the correct troop to take on all the different things the GDI sends at you. Every troop in this game will be able to handle other enemy troops, either good or bad. There's always something you can use to take them on efficiently. For example, the Nod tanks are weaker and die faster than GDI tanks, but you can use regular infantry to counter them. It doesn't make sense from a realism standpoint that dudes just chilling outside a tank can beat it, but it kind of works. After some careful movement making sure to take favorable matchups, I made it outside the enemy base. A transport helicopter shows up to carry your troops to an island where the research facility is located. With some careful luring with the helicopter, I cleared the island of all the troops and secured the bio facility for the Nod. The chaos doesn't stop there though. Kane informs us that the GDI have stolen the blueprints and only prototype of the newest Nod weapon, the stealth tank. We have to get it back at all costs. I quickly found out the GDI had a new weapon of their own, the Mammoth Tank. It has 2 missile launchers on top and significantly more health than a regular tank. After getting past the Mammoth Tank, I only had 1 engineer remaining. I decided to investigate what I thought was a safe location to go.
Not a problem.
Are these hostile?
Your mission is a failure.
So I got a new toy to work with in this mission, the Obelisk. It's a stationary defense tower that zaps any land units with a big old laser. It can even decimate the biggest tanks. But yeah, this mission ultimately turns into the old build up a base and attacking force and go kick the GDI's butts. This can take quite a while because of the limitations of the N64. Sometimes this game just gets so dang laggy. Like these airstrikes drop it to 3, maybe 4 FPS. If you scroll the camera away to not have all the troops on screen, it runs at a smooth 30 FPS though. After like forever, I stomped out the final troops and that was the end of that. Next, Kane tells us about how the GDI have finished their ultimate weapon, the ion cannon. This allows them to issue a strike from a satellite above to deal insane damage. We must capture their advanced communication center to steal the codes that make this thing operate. You know the drill by now. Build up a base, harvest the Tiberium, build a big attacking force, then go to town on the enemy base. The AI was getting smarter by this point, but it still wasn't really that bad to beat them. Just took forever, you know? After like 10 minutes of attacking, I captured the facility, leaving only 1 final mission in the Nod campaign. Kane tells us this is the final part of his plan. He wants us to construct the Temple of Nod, but there are not 1 but 2 GDI bases in the way of his plans. We need to destroy them by any means necessary. There's just so much stuff to blow up in this one, and it takes so long. The GDI have every tool in their workshop, or whatever the saying is. The point is, they have a lot of stuff. All the best troops, turrets, vehicles to take you down. The place I spawned had a low amount of Tiberium, so I had to go on the attack early. The base to the east was much smaller, so I went for it. It was a bit tough to take over, but I did. Now I could reach a lot more Tiberium pretty safely. It took quite a while, but I finally got into a position stable enough to build Kane's crazy temple. What does he want this thing for so much anyway? Oh, the temple is where he houses nukes that he can launch. That's right, the Nod have the ability to launch nukes, and they just eviscerate everything they land on. It makes it quite easier to take on the mission, but you can only use it once. Kane congratulates us on a job well done and says we've earned our rest. For now, he's going to make use of that GDI satellite we stole the codes to. Then he nukes the White House out of nowhere, and then the credits play. So we could say the game is beaten here, but I figured people would want to learn about the GDI campaign as well. Plus I heard it's way easier than the Nod one, so I went ahead and did it. The GDI campaign missions generally play the same as the Nod ones, but now we have all those troops that were being used against us. The GDI tanks are much stronger, and I think that's the main thing that makes these missions easier. I won't go through each mission like I did for Nod because, well, they all kind of play out the same, but I'll walk you through the GDI storyline. For the GDI campaign, we get our briefings from this dude named General Shepard. For the first mission, he just wants us to knock out all the Nod fortifications in the area. This first mission's basically a tutorial, and it's insanely easy after all those Nod missions. The GDI campaign's really interesting because the map indicates it's taking place in Europe as opposed to Africa for the Nod campaign. You'd think it would just be us stopping all the Nod activity from all that stuff I did before, but nope, it's a completely different area. All the missions for Nod were all desert-like, and these have a lot of grassy terrain. Anyway, General Shepard's telling us how Kane is the leader of the Nod Brotherhood when an urgent transmission comes in. This Commander Carter guy says he's under attack and in big trouble. General Shepard orders us to give him reinforcements immediately. This mission starts with an already damaged base to teach you how repairing things works, but otherwise it's very easy again. Then General Shepard blows us off for teaching us about the inner workings of the Nod once again. More important matters at hand. There's a Nod base that the GDI can't hit with airstrikes due to the SAM sites guarding it. We need to take them down to allow incoming air support while Shepard goes to a UN meeting. Again, this mission just teaches you about turrets and defense forces and the like. It's really easy. The GDI campaign really did seem to be easier, although I was pretty good at the game when I played it as opposed to never touching it for the Nod campaign, so who knows. After that, we get a briefing about how the UN has been issuing sanctions on nations housing terrorist activity, and the Nod have been seen to be affiliated with all these organizations. We learn how Kane is the leader of the Nod, but his motivations are unknown. The one thing that he has been doing consistently is trying to disrupt global trade. Then someone named Colonel Morelli shows up and says their forces were ambushed by Nod and they stole a nuclear device from them. We have to retrieve that device at all costs. Unlike the Nod, who got transport helicopters for troops, the GDI have transport cars that can shoot a turret. They are way more effective in my opinion. This one plays out just like the Nod one from before, so I just barged directly into the base and touched the device to win. Now we see a news broadcast happening stating the GDI killed innocent civilians just to get Tiberium, and General Shepard was the one behind it all. However, it then zooms out to show a green screen with Kane beside the guy. Oh god, it's a propaganda video. And then Kane shoots the camera for some reason? Then it shows General Shepard at a press conference trying to do damage control, saying how it's all a lie and no one should believe it. The UN votes to suspend all GDI funding due to the supposed killing of civilians, so now we've got to return to a damaged base and restore it to functional without much help. Can you see how these missions are kind of the same as the Nod ones? There's a rundown base you have to find with a small group of troops and use it to take down the Nod. I was beating all these first try, partly due to being better, and partly due to the GDI troops being both cheaper and stronger. We get a transmission from Commander Carter now, but it's staticky and hard to understand. He wants us to destroy something, but it's hard to make out. Whatever it is, this is a mission where we play as a Gdi Commando. I like the Commando missions the best, I think. It's just so fun to maneuver through all stealth-like and one-shot everyone. The Gdi Commando plays the exact same as the Nod one, if you're wondering. After like 4 tries or so, I got the Commando in to destroy the communications center, beating the mission. Commander Carter comes back and is like, hey, you blew up their communications center, which that's alright, but we want the Nod completely out of the Czech Republic. So we go back in to fight some more. This time though, we have more than just a single commando. This one's just another standard mission. Except there's more tools available for both sides, you know? Now we get a transmission that GDI need to get a foothold in Salzburg, and they've faced heavy damages there. This one's a little interesting in that you start with everything very damaged and $5,000, but you do have a vehicle repair bay. So using the ones you already have, you can bring them back to be fixed and get heavy use out of them. Only thing is, it costs money to repair those, so you gotta be careful about the battles you choose to fight. There is a harvester to earn more money though. Just have to hunt down all the Nod forces scattered throughout the area without losing the troops. I beat this one pretty easy. Then Commander Carter comes once again and welcomes us to the big leagues. He says he's been filling in for General Shepard because no one's sure where he is. He wants us to destroy some bunkers along the river so he can get troops into that area safely. After that, we get the whole spiel about how Tiberium's toxic and all that stuff and it's harming the environment. But you don't think people will stop harvesting it, will they? Then General Shepard shows back up saying he had to do a bunch of diplomacy with the UN and he secured new funding for the GDI. He talks about how we have a new weapon available, the Orca helicopter. This is just another standard mission, but now we have the Orca to play around with. After that, General Shepard tells us his informant Delphi lost communication with the GDI just before revealing the location of a secret Nod bioresearch facility. There, they're using humans as guinea pigs and injecting them with Tiberium to study the effects. We have to locate Delphi and rescue him at all costs. The Nod have obelisks now, which absolutely destroy your tanks. So the play here is to build a lot of Orcas since the obelisk only hits ground units. It took quite a while, but I destroyed all the forces and Delphi came out to be picked up by a transport helicopter. We get more updates on the studies into the effects of Tiberium on people and livestock. Scientists say Tiberium is going to lead to the extinction of humans, but you think we care? That stuff is awesome. Dr. Mobius has key information about Tiberium, but he's trapped in a GDI base that's under siege. We have to reach this base, stop the siege, and escort Mobius out safely. It's another spawning with a wrecked base mission, but at least we get to use the Mammoth Tank for the first time. These things are absolute beasts. Anyway, I built up my forces, blew up the stuff, and escorted Dr. Mobius out safely. Now General Shepard tells us we've cornered Kane directly at his research facility. We have to destroy everything, leave no stone unturned. This is what we've been working toward all this time. He also tells us the GDI engineers have finished preliminary testing on a new weapon that can fire precision laser beams from an orbiting satellite. This is the ion cannon the GDI used against us in the Nod campaign, and it deals huge damage to buildings. I think an issue with it is it doesn't one-shot a building from full health though. It was annoying to finish this one off because the Nod had stealth tanks by this point, and they're invisible until they decide they don't want to be. So it can take quite a long time to hunt them all down. After beating this one, there was one final mission left to beat. General Shepard tells us we finally located Kane's central base of operations, the Temple of Nod. It has the biggest military force of all guarding it, so it's going to be tough to take down. It's the final mission, so all bets are on the table for both sides. The GDI campaign was generally pretty easy for the most part, but man, this final mission may have been harder than all of the Nod missions. The area where you set up your initial base just isn't that good due to it being enclosed and having 2 points of attack. It just makes it hard to defend it from incoming troops, and the enemy is quite aggressive in this mission. They'll be sending troops towards you very often. But I just did my thing, you know? Build up the base, try to get a lot of Orcas because they're very strong. Things were going great. I was harassing the enemy harvesters and tanks with my Orcas, and there wasn't a thing they could do about it. All the while, I was building up a lot of Mammoth Tanks to go destroy everything. It was only a matter of time before I'd finally be done with this game. I went on the attack and annihilated the enemy base. Just when I thought this was going to be free, the screen started shaking violently. I had no idea what happened, but when I realized it, I knew I was not nearly done with this mission. The Nod launched a nuke and it caused absolute carnage to my base. It would take so much money to recover from it, and there were still so many Nod buildings and troops left to destroy. I realized I needed to do something different to win because the nuke just was devastating, and if it happened twice in a run, literally no chance of survival. I figured I'd devote all my resources to finding the Temple of Nod and immediately destroying it. With a combination of the ion cannon and Orcas, it should be able to blow it up quickly and prevent the nukes from happening. I found it hiding in the very bottom right corner of the map. Definitely hard to get to safely though. 5 Orcas wasn't enough, 6 wasn't enough, even 7 wasn't enough. It's just so tanky and they kept focusing all their money on repairing it. Not to mention there were SAM sites littered around it. A big issue I was having is an Orca only gets to fire 5 missiles before it needs to go back to obtain more. The distance between my base and the temple was so massive that it kept healing more than I could deal before making it back and forth again. They had a series of Tiberium silos stationed just outside where the temple was though, so I brought some engineers over to steal them. Not only would this give me the 1000 Tiberium inside, but I'd also have build access next to their base. An engineer costs $500 and a silo gives me 1000, so it's a good investment. While setting up this strategy, one of their silos was destroyed by a turret. To my surprise, the AI rebuilt the silo in that same spot and then put money inside. I realized they would just rebuild the silos there even if I sold it myself. So I set up a barracks there and just kept spawning engineers to steal the never-ending silos. But then another twist happened. I was defending my base from an attack when a nuke hit. I figured, oh great, I was too slow and my chances are over. But it was actually different. They nuked the spot where I'd been stealing their silos instead of my main base. So I lost basically nothing, and now I could easily build up to take down the temple. Finally, after so many hours, I destroyed that stupid thing, and the threat of the nuke was gone. From this point, it was just a standard mission. It takes a while to blow everything up, but I did it pretty easily. It shows a very high quality cutscene of Kane standing at a desk at the temple and it gets blown up by the ion cannon. And then the credits play once again. Game complete. There are a few extra missions in this game called Spec Ops Missions, and they're apparently way harder than anything in the 2 campaigns, but I decided to pass on those. I figured I had enough of this game by this point, and I didn't want to try to do something harder than what was in those. So yeah, there you have it. My journey to beating Command and Conquer. This one was quite a long journey. By hours, it's the longest playthrough of this challenge so far, surpassing Donkey Kong 64 at 29 hours. Although I 100%ed that game. My only exposure to the RTS genre before this was Command & Conquer Tiberium Wars, and I pretty much sucked at that game. I definitely was not good at this going in, and I only think I'm about average at it after beating this game. Many people think it doesn't make sense for an RTS to be on console, and I sort of agree. The controls definitely lend themselves to keyboard and mouse, but I found them pretty intuitive on the N64 controller. Sure, you can't play nearly as optimally on it, but I think it works fine. For the N64 specifically though, this game was just so laggy. The hardware simply couldn't handle it. I thought the game itself was pretty cool though. I definitely had a good time playing it, and I can see why this series grew as big as it did. The story was pretty good, and the mission design and gameplay itself was really fun. I like the music really well too. I'd say if you think you want to play this, don't do it on the N64, but rather play the remastered version on PC. It runs very smoothly, and it's the way the game's meant to be played in the modern day. I gave it a 6 out of 10 for enjoyability, and a 6 out of 10 for difficulty. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Have a sneak peek at the next game. There's currently 310 games on the list. Could be any of them. Literally pick anything. Don't give me StarCraft. I don't want that right now. 3, 2, 1, go. 25. Well, that's not StarCraft. Oh shoot, we're playing Bass Rush Eco Gear Power Worm Championship. Heck yeah, dude. I don't think I can use my fishing controller though. But yeah, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. It helps the channel a lot. And if you like this series, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one.